Disastery Channel is back with another special edition dedicated to the delightful Darwin Awards. So sit down, stick your feet up, and get ready to shit your pants laughing at the god-awful misfortune of others, as Disastery Channel brings you 6 more of the most diabolical deaths of all time, with a dash of disastery dark humor, of course. But now, without any further arguing Jews, we begin. Balloon Priest Meets God. In 2008, 41-year-old Father Adelia Antonio de Carli, a Brazilian Catholic priest, died after floating out to sea on a chair attached to a cluster of balloons. In the spirit of Lawn Chair Larry and Danny Deckchair, Father de Carli, also known as Padre do Balão or Balloon Priest, attempted to set the world record for the longest clustered balloon flight in a bid to publicize a spiritual rest stop for Brazilian truckers. The truckers' rest stop was a known hangout for lowlifes and homosexuals, both things which were near and dear to the heart of the pontificating priest. And Lord knows he needed the money. So on April 20th, 2008, De Carli set off from the Brazilian port of Paranagua, sitting on a deck chair strapped with 1,000 helium balloons. He was wearing a helmet, an aluminium thermal flight suit, waterproof coveralls, and a parachute. However, 8 hours after takeoff, the feckless father went off the grid. During the flight, a change in wind direction blew De Carli over open waters. Despite taking with him a phone and GPS locator, rescue teams were unable to locate the priest. As it turns out, he did not know how to work a bloody GPS. De Carli's last contact was a cell phone call to pass his location to the Brazilian Navy. De Carli's body was discovered accidentally by oil-rig tugboat workers over 2 months later, more than 50 miles off the Brazilian coast. Half of the body was missing, and DNA identification was required to officially confirm that it was in fact Father Fuckhead. De Carli was also the recipient of a rare double Darwin Award since, as a Catholic priest, his vow of celibacy already removes him from the gene pool, earning him double points. Additionally, God knows how many Brazilian boys' buttholes were spared as a result of Father De Carli being taken out of circulation, and may God have mercy on his soul. DIY Bungee Jump Blunder Bungle. In 1997, 22-year-old Eric Barcia from Reston, Virginia, plummeted to his untimely death in a bungee jump attempt gone spectacularly awry. Mr. Barcia, a Mexican fast food worker whose dream it was to hurtle face first at the fucking floor fantastically fucking fast, was too broke to buy a bungee jump pass, and so had the bright idea to fashion himself a bungee cord and jump off the tallest structure he could find. Barcia taped a number of bungee cords together and strapped one end around his foot. He had the foresight to anchor the other end of his self-made bungee to a 70-foot railroad trestle at Lake Akatink Park. In his preparations, Barcia was careful to measure the length of the cords to make sure that his makeshift bungee was a few feet short of the 70-foot drop. Unfortunately, the wretched Mexican's math did not math, and he failed to take into account the physics of elasticity. Also, even if the cord had zero elasticity, Barcia failed to factor his own height into the equation, so he would have splattered into the ground in any case. Barcia's grandmother, 79-year-old Lucille Kalinski, said she was surprised that her grandson would try such a stunt. He was very smart in school. His mother told me he got good grades and was responsible at work. We had no idea she'd raised such a little bitch, she said. The Welsh Never Welch on a bet. In 2005, 26-year-old Welsh wanker Jeff Hoosh was watching England play Wales in the opening game of the Six Nations Rugby Championship in Cardiff, Wales. The Six Nations tournament involves 6 countries that nobody else in the world gives a fuck about, competing in a sport that nobody else in the world gives a fuck about, where grown men use hand and foot to fondle an egg-shaped piece of leather in a bizarre mating ritual that attempts to impress the stunted ladyfolk of the region. Young Jeff Hoosh had been slinging piss heavily with his degenerate friends while watching the boring as badger shit match. The Welsh hadn't beaten England in Cardiff for 12 years, and everybody expected a well-deserved Welsh execution. England had just edged ahead of Wales 9-8 with 10 minutes to go when jolly young Jeff, apparently trying to liven things up a wee bit, bet his friends that if Wales wins, I'll coot me fork in balls oof leddy. Nobody is quite sure why, but his mates didn't believe his threat, either on account of the low probability of Wales winning, and/or the low probability of him actually possessing a genuine set of testicles, or his friends simply couldn't understand his funny drunken mumblings in his incomprehensible Welsh accent. Either way, after Wales kicked a last-minute 45-metre penalty winning them the match, Hoosh the douche promptly popped home and proceeded to lop off his own testicles before trudging back to the pub to show his shocked friends the evidence. Eyewitnesses allegedly heard him scream, "Da Welsh Never Welch" on a bet leady, before he passed out in a pool of his own blood. Local papers said that Hoosh was rushed to hospital, where he remained in a seriously ill condition. So while Hoosh the eunuch didn't actually die, he managed to secure a Darwin Award on account of the fact that he completely eliminated his ability to reproduce. Electric Ukrainian Fish Monger. In 1999, in Kiev, Ukraine, 43-year-old fisherman Andy Cherkov died while fishing in a freak and tragic accident. Ukraine has been in the headlines recently for all the wrong reasons, including being used as a staged battleground to perpetuate a war that profits huge US-based defense companies at the expense of little Eastern European countries with names that are hard to pronounce. But I digress. That fateful summer evening, the cheerful Cherkov was merrily celebrating the one-year anniversary of the death of his annoying and overbearing mother-in-law. And what better way to celebrate than with a fry pan full of Ukrainian carp? Cherkov was known through the region as being a keen and excellent fisherman due to his mastery of using various different types of bait. So you could say Cherkov was a well-known masturbator. On this day, though, Cherkov stopped his constant masturbating in order to try a different approach. Cherkov devised a scheme that would allow him to catch maximum fish with minimum effort. Cherkov ran some power cables from his house down to the river Tereblia, trailed the ends into the river, and then cranked up the juice. The electric shock killed many fish which floated belly up to the top of the water. Tens, if not hundreds, of succulent Ukrainian pike, bream, and catfish bobbed to the surface as Cherkov licked his lips in anticipation. He then waded in to collect his catch, neglecting to remove the live wires from the water first. Cherkov was instantly electrocuted, causing him to perform a spastic Ukrainian jig for a few bars before falling dead into the water. To this day, the local villagers still tell the tale of Cherkov the village masturbator as a warning to small children as well as to annoying mother-in-laws. Kung Fu Lion Wrangler. In 1989, in Perth, Australia, 32-year-old pencil-neck incel Ellie Coe, a student studying Kung Fu down at the local laundromat, listened with rapt attention when his senseless sensei solemnly told the class one Monday, "Now you have reached this level in your training, you can kill wild animals with your bare hands." The Kung Fu newbie loser took his sensei's statement verbatim, heading directly to the Melbourne Zoo to test his Kung Fu combinations against the most savage adversary of them all, a fully fucking grown male lion. In the dead of night, he broke into the zoo and leapt into the lion's enclosure, intending to engage one of these kings of the jungle in hand-to-paw combat. The cocky Coe probably would have lost a one-on-one man versus lion fight anyway, but he never got his shot. His naive fight plan didn't account for the enthusiasm of the entire lion's pride for a tender intruder, nor did it give sufficient weight to the possibility that his instructor didn't have the slightest idea what the fuck he was talking about. The next morning, zoo employees found all that remained of Coe. His 2 arms and 2 hands with shreds of red lion fur grasped tightly between the fingers. And so it goes that the crowning achievement of Coe's life was to serve as a warning to others that, according to the well-known Chinese expression, if you like lying down with lions, you're liable to get mauled to bloody death. Rocket Man's Niagara fails. In October 1995, 39-year-old daredevil Robert Rocketman Overacker lost his life in a death-defying stunt, which unfortunately ultimately failed to defy death. Robert had a long history of mental illness and spent years on the streets homeless when his job as a substandard stuntman couldn't cover the bills. Homelessness is something that we take for granted these days in cities such as New York, Los Angeles, and San Francisco, which ironically are the cities most densely dominated by delusional Democrats. But back in the mid-90s, being homeless was a lot more edgy and cool. Years of homelessness gave Robert a soft spot for our stinky windscreen washing friends, and also gave him plenty of time to conceive of this ridiculously shit-brained stunt. And so, It became Robert's dream to raise awareness of homelessness by riding a rocket-assisted jet ski off the top of Niagara Falls and then safely parachuting down before finally being collected by a boat in the calm waters below. Robert became obsessed with completing this stunt. His friends tried to talk him out of it numerous times, causing him to postpone twice, but he could not be dissuaded, and finally committed to the deed on October 1st, 1995. On that fateful day, in front of thousands of frantic fuck-witted fans, the great Robert Rocketman Overacker rode his jet ski off the edge of Niagara Falls as planned. But from there, things went horribly wrong. First fail. The water from the falls had a dampening effect on his equipment, and his rocket failed to ignite. Second fail. His parachute did not deploy, and he went straight down the falls, only to be sucked down into the treacherous waters below. Despite the two previous minor inconveniences, the third phase of Robert's scheme did go perfectly as planned. His body was collected from the river below by a passing tour boat called the Maid of the Mist, although he was a little less alive than he initially might have hoped. While Robert the Rocketman's stunt could be viewed by some as a tragic failure, I'm sure even Robert himself never imagined winning anything, never mind a Darwin Award. For the next video, click here. And make sure you like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and stay disastrous.